In this episode, we take a look at the 5 tournament format pre-proposals that are currently up for a vote in Splinterlands. If this sounds interesting to you, please stand by. Hey all you Splinterheads, welcome back. Bronze Dragon here saying thanks for dropping by. Well, I think I've been kind of avoiding it. I've been doing a lot of other coverage lately, and I've seen these proposals waiting on me. So I thought I'd dive in tonight and just go ahead and cover them. Saying that there's been a lot of proposal action this week is an understatement, because I got home from work, I came in, I was intent on doing the 5 tournament format pre-proposals and going through them and doing a video on that. And then I log in and I find that there's 6 more proposals and pre-proposals up for a vote. So what we're going to do in this video, and I'm going to try to make it relatively short, but I want to go ahead and do a comparison of the 5 pre-proposals that are up for the changing of the tournament formats. And first off, I want to note one good change lately, in my opinion, is this little red dot up here. I think I was watching, I believe it was KGM Jam the other day, and he said it kind of bugged him. But remember, we used to have that big flash up message whenever you'd log in if there was a proposal up for a vote, and it would always be kind of annoying until you actually voted on it and then got that out of the way. Well, in this case, they've taken that away and they just put the red dot. So the red dot just means that you have a proposal to vote on. Okay, with that in mind, let's go ahead and go on to the pre-proposals, not proposals. These are still in the pre-proposal stage. He's changed the way he's made things, or the way he's doing things. And it's logical, right? So he has a big change he needs to make, and there's several different ways he can make that change. So instead of making the choice, he's putting several choices before us, and then whichever gets the most vote, that goes up for the actual proposal vote. So that's what's happening. So what happens, let's go ahead and look at the formats. As you can see, they now have a secondary section here for pre-proposals, and then the primary section is regular proposals. Now, you will see the tournament. They're towards the bottom now. There's only 4 days left to vote on these, and then the others are towards the top. So you have to scroll down a little bit. You have A, B, C, D, and E, and basically these are just different format options for changing the tournaments. Okay, so I got in here and I started looking at them like, well, I need to see these on the same page so I can compare them. So I did whipped up a little bit of a graphic here. Okay, so let's go full screen on this. See a little bit easier. Okay, so what he's talking about is changing the tournament formats. Okay. So here we have A, B, C, D, and E. So you can take a look at this and kind of decide how you want to vote. Okay, now that we've saw this graphic, what I want to do is I want to back up and I want to go back into a few more details before we cover actually what is in each tournament option. I have one of the articles. Now, interestingly enough, most of these did not have many comments on it. A lot of these usually have a lot of commentary and a lot of people arguing back and forth about different points, and I get some salient points out of those arguments and get some takeaways. Just to be upfront, I'm not on the tournament scene. I'm not going to pretend I'm on the tournament scene, but going forward, if I actually want to play in the tournament, I figured I could look at these lists and figure out what makes most sense to me, because I have to cast my vote too as well. You know, I have to cast my vote on 3 different accounts, right? So in the last one, in E, Fat Jimmy puts a note down below about what it means, what the tournament format means. Okay, so I'm just going to read what he says here, and then we'll take a look at the actual format options. Okay. It is very important to point out that the rotating single edition events will not be happening simultaneously. Each set will have one group of tournaments in the rotation, bronze through diamond, and then the next set will be scheduled. This will be constantly rotating, and only one single edition set of events will have active tournaments at any given time in Wild. Emphasis is Wild will remain on full Wild all edition events. Single edition events will include all cards with the same border design, main set, mini set, rewards, and promos. Alpha cards will be included by default everywhere beta is specified and allowed. Now, I'm not going to read this full thing out. You can check out the articles when you go to vote. But basically, his points are that they really want to continue to give utility to each edition card set. But I think you're walking a fine line there. Obviously, you want to keep utility with the older cards. So, and he goes on to mention this in the verbiage that he doesn't want. They don't want older alpha and beta cards just to be relegated to land. They should still be usable, and there should be some worth in playing them in tournaments, right? So I agree with that. Okay, going back to the graphic, let's go full screen on this. What this means to me, if you selected A, then the formats would be Alpha, Beta, and Untamed, and Chaos Legion, Wild, Modern, Rebellion only. Okay, but what that also means to me is the fact that any single edition, say for instance Alpha, Beta, Untamed, and Chaos Legion, would be rotating, and Rebellion. All four of those would be rotating. So at any one time, you would have a Wild tournament, you'd have a Modern tournament, and then you'd have one of the others: Alpha, Beta, and Untamed, and Chaos Legion, or Rebellion. Okay. Now, in the second selection in B, you would have an Alpha Beta category, and that's the only difference between A and B. Okay. So instead of just having an Alpha category in B, you have an Alpha plus Beta category. Then you have an Alpha, Beta, and Untamed, Chaos Legion, Wild, Modern, Rebellion. And once again, you would have Wild, Modern going at all times, but then the other ones would cycle, and you wouldn't have multiple of those going at one time. I think like I mentioned earlier, I think the fine line we walk here is that you don't want too many different types of tournaments going on at one time. Otherwise, you're going to spread out your user base. Okay. Obviously, we want as much attendance in these tournaments as possible, right? Okay, so C, the options are Wild, Modern, and Rebellion only. Very simple. That one right off the bat kind of appealed to me from a simplicity standpoint. I'm not saying I'm leaning that way now, but the simplest, right? D seemed kind of weird to me. Rebellion and Chaos Legion, or Rebellion and Untamed and Wild. Okay, that seems like the odd man out, the weird option right there. Okay, and finally E, which I believe Fat Jimmy said in his article he believes is the best option and the best representation of offering value to all the different sets. Okay, you have Alpha and Beta, you have Untamed, you have Chaos Legion, Rebellion, Wild, Modern, and then a random 2 sets which you would draw. And this, obviously that having an Alpha only format, most people are not going to be able to play. There's going to be a small minority of people, but once again, those are the old timers, right? The people that have been here since the beginning. Those are the high stakes guys in most cases. And it bears repeating that, you don't want your game to get to a point where your older cards, which should be the highest value, highest prices rather. Once again, we get back to that argument of price versus value, but they should still be represented. So I have not, to tell you the truth, I have not made up my mind on this yet. I like the idea that they're rotating. They plan on rotating the single edition tournaments and then keeping the Wild and Modern, obviously, so you have options and not spread the user base too thin. So I'm going to wrap this up just by going by what Fat Jimmy said in the article. Okay, and he's talking about, this is in the verbiage underneath the final option. Okay, he says this tournament format gives value and utility to every edition. introducing multiple use cases. The truly competitive player will need all editions to be fully competitive on the highest level, while newer players can compete regularly and consistently with modern-only decks, not only in modern format, but also in the single edition wild events which they rotate into play. This solution offers a healthy compromise for every player, from those who are pushing to keep alpha-only events to those pushing for rebellion-only events. These will be included along with events for every full edition, all with equal representation in this single edition slot of tournament creation. So, finishing up on this, I mean, it's a valid argument, and really, by my way of thinking, the option that I would go with is not even up here. And of course, there's probably 15 other ways you can combine these, but I like the idea of having an alpha and beta class, right? I also like the idea of having a Untamed and Chaos Legion class, and Wild and Modern, and possibly a Rebellion and Chaos Legion would be nice too. I think Alpha and Beta go together better than Alpha, Beta, and Untamed. If I were to vote, I would vote on this one minus this one right here. Obviously, I can't because it's not an option, right? This final one seems kind of odd to me because then you would be playing, you would have to buy so many different sets or rent out a different set if you wanted to play that specific tournament each week. But like you said, it does give you the most options. You can go with Alpha, Alpha and Beta, Untamed, Chaos Legion, Rebellion, and so forth. So taking a look at the current voting, looks like Option A is sitting at 14% for. Option B is at 7%. Option C is at 68%. Option D is at 4%. And Option E is at 33%. So by far and large, it looks like Option C is the most popular at this point. It's a hard choice. I definitely would not go with D. I'm leaning away from C now, which was my initial kind of leaning. I would probably vote for E. Okay, that gives the greatest versatility. That's just my call. And he said he's going to do, the random 2-set drawings live or on, so it'd be fair. So people know he's not cheating or something or other. But currently, I'm leaning towards E. But everybody feels different. And especially, I would imagine that if you're a big tournament player, this would really weigh heavy on your mind, because this is going to, with more formats, if you're really into playing tournaments, you're going to have to buy more cards if you don't have, say, for instance, Alpha. I mean, who but the oldest players and the most top-level players have Alpha decks? Not me. But with that said, this has been Bronze Dragon with an update on the current 5 tournament pre-proposals that currently have 4 days left to vote. So get your vote in and make your mind known. With that said, I hope everyone on your side is happy and healthy, and I will see you on the flip side.